You want to learn jazz and everybody is telling you to learn bebop scales, check out how to improvise over altered chords, learn upper structure triad pairs and all these fancy things which are fun to work with and definitely something you want to check out. But at the same time, that's not what's really gonna make you sound like jazz, because it's not about what you play, it's much more about how you play it. So in this video I'm going to go over a few really simple examples that do sound like jazz. I'm going to talk about why that is, and then I'm going to give you some suggestions on how you practice and how you work towards phrasing and sounding more like jazz when you're playing. My name is Larsen. Learn jazz, make music. To give you an idea about what I mean, here are first a few really simple 2-5-1 licks in the key of C major. No chromaticism, no alterations, just the basic C major scale and the diatonic arpeggios found in that scale. I'm going to analyze these lines, and then I'm going to give you some great exercises that are really going to help you improve your own phrasing. What is important with a line like this is that you need to start hearing that what makes it sound good and what makes it work is that even though they're all eighth notes, this is pretty much just a stream of 8 notes. There's a little bit of rhythm at the end, but essentially it's just all eighth notes. The reason why it sounds interesting is that we're not playing all the eighth notes with the same intensity and the same volume. There's a lot of dynamics happening within the line, and that is what makes it work, that's what makes it musical and what makes it breathe, and also why it's possible to play lines like that and still make it sound like a piece of music. Because otherwise then a jazz line would just sound like this. And that's not what's happening. We are improvising with rhythm as well as with notes, and the dynamics are really what we're using to express the rhythm in a line like this. To give you an idea about how this works, so if I played the same line but then completely without dynamics, it would sound like this. Even though this is a detail, then here it really loses a lot of its life and really what makes it interesting to listen to. So we do need that phrasing. It's an important part of what is going on. And if you listen to what is happening here, then you can break it down pretty simply, because really what is happening is that I'm adding a few accents within the line. I have an accent on the first note, so the A here. And then I have another accent on the 2 on the G. Here are no accents, and then in the next bar I have an accent on the F on 2 and then naturally, because it's the end of the line, there's a slight accent to the last note, the last of the 2 Gs in bar 3. Something that's worth noticing and that's going to really help you play with better phrasing and also make it easier for you to execute better phrasing is that very often you can use legato to help you give accents to a note. In this case, I have an accent on the first note, the A, and that gets even more clear because the next note that I'm playing is a G, and I'm playing that with a pull-off, so that's naturally going to be a little bit softer. So in that way, I'm using technique to help me execute the phrasing, and this is something where you need to kind of get those two things to come together in a logical way, and you need to work on that and train that. When it comes to jazz phrasing, there are no strict rules, but you could use one rule to start identifying notes in your own lines, or if you're reading a transcription that you want to give an accent, or at least where you expect to find an accent. And that rule or that guideline would be that it has to be a note that's off the beat, and it has to be higher than the following note. And as you can see in the example that I just played, most of the accents that I'm giving are also like that. It's also not a strict rule, because I also give an accent to the first note in the phrase, which is also not something that you always do. Let's check out another example. Again, just simple 2-5-1 in C, just the basic scale and the basic diatonic arpeggios. As you can see, then the accents that I have in this line are all following the guideline or the rule that I just went over, and that the material that I'm using is just the basic C major scale. It's the D-7 arpeggio and an A minor triad on the D-7, and then just the G7 arpeggio on the G7. So there's no Dorian sharp 4 bebop scale. It's all just the basic stuff that's there, and it's all about how you play it and not about what you play. Now you probably have a better understanding of why something sounds better and how the phrasing works. But one thing is knowing how it is, and another thing is being able to play like that, because you, of course, if you want to sound better, then you want to make this something that's in your system, something that's naturally gonna come out whenever you're playing and whenever you're improvising. And that's a little bit more difficult. But there are two really great exercises that you can start working on that's really gonna help you develop this and also really get that into your playing. The first way of practicing this is to use Bebop Themes as an exercise for phrasing. So Bebop Themes, of course, if you're learning some Bebop Themes, it's never a bad idea to learn some new repertoire. And Bebop Themes consist mostly of the kind of lines that you anyway have to phrase in your solo. So those melodies work really well as exercises, as vehicles for you to analyze and figure out what is the best phrasing for this, how I'm going to play it, and also once you figure out how you want to play them, how do you actually execute that and how do you get the phrasing to sound the way that you have in mind. Now this is of course sort of a very theoretical and technical way of approaching it, but it's a good way to get into thinking like this and starting, because you can really make a lot of decisions. You can try out different kinds of phrasing, different accents, and you can also listen to different recorded versions of this song and in that way try to analyze them and figure out how are they phrasing it. There might be several solutions that could work for any kind of bebop line. You can also see that in the examples that I have above. There are more than one way to do this. And of course, once you can play the theme and you have an idea about the phrasing, then find a recorded version that's close to how you play it, and then try to really nail that phrasing, really try to play together with that recording and get it into your system so that it's something that you can hear and feel when you're playing, because that's where you need to take it if you want to sound like this when you're improvising. The other way to improve and practice your phrasing that really works well, I think actually is the most effective way to work on this, is learning solos by ear or transcribing. In this case, maybe you don't actually want to write down the solos because it's really important that you're playing them. This is what had the biggest impact on my playing. When I was in a period where I was really checking out a lot of solos by ear, then I really drastically improved my phrasing. And the reason for that is that when you're working on learning solos by ear and you're trying to remember them and playing them, then you really have to listen to how they're played, and you sort of automatically get a really good feeling of what they're supposed to sound like, and then that's also what you're trying to get out when you're playing them, and you're always reacting to how it sounds, and that's much closer to what you want to have in the end when you're improvising. Even if the only benefit from learning solos by ear would be that you improved your phrasing, then I think phrasing is so important that that will be enough to spend a lot of time doing it. I think you can also tell from the first part of this video, phrasing is really what makes it sound like jazz, not the note choice. And you get a lot of good phrases as well when you're working on a transcription or learning a solo by ear anyway. Since checking out solos is so important, then I'm of course also curious, what solos did you check out? Are there solos that you recommend that really help in terms of phrasing or other things? What did you learn? How did you play that with a record? Did you do something else? Did you just learn it from a transcription? I think these are interesting things to share, and that can help a lot of the other people checking out this video. And also, I'm just curious if there are some good solos that are worth checking out. So leave a comment on the video if you have a good suggestion. A very important part of phrasing is also to know what you actually sound like, and then compare that to how you think you sound and how you want to sound. And the best way to work with this is of course to record yourself. If you want to check out a video where I'm talking about some of the really important things that you need to be aware of if you're recording yourself, not to get depressed or demotivated, and also how you can really use this as a great tool for checking or even teaching yourself how to play better, then check out this video.